Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, and I welcome all of you back, ladies and gentlemen, to another national anthem reaction video, ladies and gentlemen, where today, ladies and gentlemen, just to give you an idea geographically where we've traveled to today so far, we started in Suriname, we traveled all the way to Canada, and then we flew. Well, basically, we could have gone the other way to all the way to Mongolia, and now we have ended up in Denmark. And yes, I know, I understand I have spelled this incorrectly. Sorry about that. There we go. Now, one of the most interesting things that I found out during yesterday's videos is that it's technically also referred to as the Kingdom of Denmark because the nation of Greenland, for example, is also a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. And if you are born in Greenland, that means technically you're also a resident of Denmark as well. The same also applies if you were born in the Faroe Islands, but unless, of course, the Faroe Islands has its own anthem, it's, again, one of those things we could safely include for the sake of argument. Now, among other things as well, is that Denmark, for relatively quite a small nation north of Germany and west of Sweden, is the fact that Denmark has actually given the world quite a lot over the years. They've given us things like Skype, Google Maps, the bacon sarnie, and Lego, all invented by the Danish. And when it comes to a lot of other things besides, from its food to the beautiful city of Copenhagen, I mean, doesn't that look pretty? And I also love the fact that because of the way that Denmark's flag is designed, it forms a cross when it's tilted on its side, and just all along the quayside. Well, quayside, yeah, I'm pretty sure I could say quayside, and again, look at what a difference it makes when the houses are different coloured and almost all the window frames look exactly the same, and it looks not too unfamiliar, like the North Sea Canal all the way in Holland. It's just one of those things. Again, we go through things like that, and it looks even better again. Or how about we go over here, and Copenhagen looks. I even love the reflection of the houses in the water. That's just the icing on the cake. That is. And aside from all that, I do know a lot of things about not too much about its food, but there is some very interesting things when it comes to things like food that Denmark has. But then again. And again, listen, I've never really had Lego when I was a kid, but when you see just some of the things that people can conjure up with from what looks like an entire museum and little area explicitly devoted to Lego, just look at all of this, from every single thing you can make, and this is discounting the actual Lego house that I think James May and co built way back when. But again, you can see this from space, and just look at the difference that just a bit of color can actually make to a building, or even just its architectural design can just have it just from above. It looks like something that looks something out of a fantasy novel. It's just colorful. It stands perfectly along, and again, even from space, this looks exceptionally well kept and clean. And I don't know why on earth it's such a thing, ladies and gentlemen, but I have such a huge thing about cleanliness. And again, even when you go to things like Legoland and stuff like that, everything looks so well kept and organized. And look at all this. A Lego campus. Please don't tell me there's an entire like university courses you could probably take to constructing things like this from dinosaurs to whole different like German castles. I mean, that's also one thing I also want to mention is that how much do you reckon Lego has actually generated? How much is Lego actually worth? Like today, how much is Lego? How much is the company actually worth? Because we'll get to that in a second. Worth approximately 11.8 billion US dollars from a worldwide value from as far back as 2022. In comparison, the brand's valuation was about 5.4 billion US dollars in 2015. So almost double. And that's probably maybe why you've never heard any horror stories about like Denmark's economy, because to be honest, how can you when you've got a company that's probably worth more than some car manufacturers probably don't even take anywhere. I don't even think Volkswagen do business as well as that. Though then again, I'm pretty sure Volkswagen's like value is like maybe double that of Lego, but it depends who you ask, really. You don't really need you because you could just probably build a car for yourself out of Lego and just go about through there. And outside of this, I'll just go over a few other things as well, because as mentioned before, it is a kingdom, so they have their own monarchy. It's, or what they call a representative democracy. Denmark is a Scandinavian, so it is Scandinavia. Okay, so that's glad we've cleared that one up. Comprising the Jutland Peninsula and numerous islands. It's linked to nearby Sweden via the Øresund Bridge, and Copenhagen is its capital city. It's home to royal palaces and colourful Nivarian harbour, plus the Tivoli amusement park and the iconic Little Mermaid statue. Actually, yeah, that's also a thing I wanted to mention, is that Hans Christian Andersen was Danish, was he not? Because I thought that Hans Christian Andersen was possibly Swedish or possibly even Norwegian, but actually, the more I think about it, maybe he probably was. In fact, let me just do a little check. Hans, born in Odense, Denmark, 1805. Okay, glad we called that up. And as well, actually, to be honest, whilst we've got the topic of Hans Christian Andersen, is that he's also renowned as one of the most popular fairy tale authors of all time from the 19th century. And bear in mind, we know we're quite familiar with things like the Brothers Grimm, but to give you an idea about what else what old Hans Christian Andersen did, is that, yes, they talk about the Little Mermaid statue because he not only wrote The Little Mermaid, he also wrote another story called The Snow Queen, which, for those that know, was adapted into the 2013 Disney film Frozen. So, possibly two of the biggest and best-selling Disney movies ever made were both adapted from Hans Christian Andersen novels. I'm surprised technically they did a third one because it was about the toy soldier, but again, the one they used for Disney, they used it as a segment in Fantasia 2000, and it has a very, very different ending compared to the novel, which, again, I just have, like, an entire collection of Andersen's, short fairy tales, and some of them are short, and I'm not entirely sure if you can, like, condense The Little Mermaid and The Snow Queen into stuff like that, but it has to be said, ladies and gentlemen, his status on the world is undeniable. Undeniable. Odense is writer Hans Christian Andersen's hometown, with a medieval core of cobbled streets and half-timbered houses. Let's take a little bit of a let's go to Odense. Let's take a look at Odense very quickly. Yeah, it's definitely cobbled streets, and again, it even has something like almost like a modern, almost a slightly medieval German look to it. Again, I don't know if it's just because of the way its houses are built, or the way they're laid out, or the archways. It looks like a modern version of a medieval German town. I must, again, it looks so clean and so well. But it doesn't look jerry built. It looks as though it was designed to last for centuries, but it was meant to look beautiful as well. And is that one of the palaces? Sounds fairly likely. And then, of course, the Odense with a new light railway, but that's just from above. it's a again. I'm like staggered a little bit. I mean, they must have some absolutely fantastic photographers as well, and they also have the Ramses experience, which is I know what the Ramses like. Well, I only know a Ramses by means of it was a thing we discussed when we were doing about the history of the European Union from yesterday, but that's just about what I've got to know for now. And the only thing I can think to also draw my attention to before we get into their anthem is that it has a population of just under 6 million people, and its current queen is Margaret II of Denmark. So that's about what we have to know now, and it's now time as well to get into their national anthem. So with an entire nation about as colourful and as considerate and as clean and as productive and innovative as Denmark, I wonder what their music is probably going to sound in comparison. So please rise, ladies and gentlemen, for the national anthem of Denmark. There is a lovely country. ladies and gentlemen. Beautiful indeed. It's also... it's bizarre, ladies and gentlemen. It's that out of all... because we've done almost... well, with the exception of one other country, we've basically covered the whole of Sweden, of the whole of Scandinavian Europe's national anthems, and all of them are so rich, beautiful, and sung in such a dark and deep melody. It's like something meant to be performed in a church choir, as opposed to maybe just... I wonder again what would be like the impression of some people if this was like done at the Olympics and they stood for each country's national anthem and then something like this came on. Like, who would be orchestrating this and who would be ready to perform? Because because again, it's the sort of thing that would almost catch people by surprise. From its hills and valleys gently fall, its ancient name is Denmark. Or behind the mounds, monoliths. It tells almost Denmark as though it's like a sacred, a mysterious, almost like paradise on earth. And even, I love when it started including references to Norse mythology, and it is Freya's Hall. And I believe Freya's Hall is meant to be like... because I didn't like Freya have some, like a palace or have some way of welcoming all those who struggled and all those who are welcoming into her home. But then again, I also knew that her son was so like strict. Again, I don't know if any of this is true, but wasn't it that Freya's son was like stripped of all human emotion and lived basically as a hermit, unaware to recall or to even consider if he can feel anything anymore? I don't quite remember. I remember what his name was, but I do heavily get behind the idea that it's definitely... it makes your entire like nation sound all the more special when you give it the sort of treatment that makes Denmark come... You know what I'm trying to get across? The idea is that they make Denmark sound incredibly special, as though it's not just a place that exists, it's a place you have to see it to believe it. Which, to be fair, is something that I've basically been doing since I started doing this video, is that anytime we saw Copenhagen or Odense, we were just sort of like a little bit thrown back about how startling and how grandiose everything was becoming. Which is, again, another big thing about a lot of these Scandinavian albums is that, well, songs, is that you don't quite believe, well, you don't have room to disbelieve the idea that these places are beautiful for its citizens because they made them sound extra special. Which, for what that's worth, ladies and gentlemen, I'd say that it must mean a lot, ladies and gentlemen, and you can't fault them for wanting to think that their own land is special, especially one that is about as steeped with history and rich in culture as that of Denmark. And with all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, I hope all of you have enjoyed Denmark's national anthem. Please make sure to leave all your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. Let me know what you guys felt of Denmark's national anthem for yourselves. And can we also point out that there was also a small pastry type biscuit called a Danish, which is kind of strange to name an entire nation after a biscuit. It's a bit like you don't walk around having a box of Scotland's, for instance, although goodness knows what that would taste of. I hope you're a fan of ginger, because I reckon it would be a ginger flavoured biscuit. It's sort of like a posh Jaffa cake, really. Anyway, what was my point? Oh yes, take care and bye bye for now.